What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the Time Skew Podcast Sunday morning live stream. I am your co-host today with Pride, myself, Q, and Pride. We're going to be here today, and we're going to be talking fantasy football. It's finally Sunday morning. Super excited to be with you guys. Pride, how are you feeling on this Sunday morning? Football is finally back, my man.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I'm feeling pretty good about my lineups today. I've just been going through and making sure I got everyone who might be out with injury out, and I'm feeling pretty confident.
Yeah, I think that's something that, especially that we want to do with today's stream, is be able to really help you set your lineup. You know, whether you're watching this during the stream, maybe you're watching it after, right before, or maybe you're watching this sometime during the week and you can learn a couple of things that we're going to be talking about because maybe you weren't able to catch it live, and maybe you'll tune in with us next week. So we've got a great show for you guys today. Today, we are going to be talking news and notes. We're going to be talking lineup advice, answering any questions that come in. We're going to be discussing and debating some things as well. Like I said, it's going to be really fun. Super excited. So I guess, Pride, while I kind of do a little bit of tweeting and sharing real quick, what are some major storylines that you're watching for week one of the, let's call it the fantasy football season? Give me three storylines that you're watching for fantasy football right now. It is 10 a.m. Central Time, so we got about 2 hours till kickoff. So go ahead, give me three storylines or things that you're watching right now that could maybe change up what you do here in a couple hours starting your lineup.
Well, I guess one of the biggest storylines that probably should have already made changes to is that Miles Sanders being out for this week. He didn't make the trip to Washington, and so that's one of the things that I had to change this morning was I had to take Miles Sanders out of my lineup and put in someone else. Hopefully you have a serviceable running back in your backup, because Miles Sanders usually was, well, in pretty much every league that I was in, he was a first-round pick, and you know, it stinks losing your first-round pick in the first week of the season. But other than that, some storylines I'm also watching for is Mike Evans. I believe he's dealing with some sort of injury. And, I mean, I know everyone's been looking forward to the season, see how this Buccaneers offense, the champions of the offseason, are going to do. And if they don't have Mike Evans, then that really kind of hampers their offense, because obviously they still have Chris Godwin, but behind him, I think they still have Scotty Miller, and Tyler Johnson, their draft pick. But, you know, it's not what you were hoping for to see Tom Brady throwing to in the first week of the season. And so I think those are some storylines to look for. The rest, I think it will just have to come down to the game to see. I mean, obviously everyone wants to see how the Buccaneers do in their first game with the Darth Brady at the helm. As well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that one. I really like that. That kind of stumped me there for a sec. The Darth Brady, I'm a fan of it. I like the Darth Brady. I'm a big fan of that. Welcome in everyone who's watching. Hopefully you're enjoying the stream so far. Leave a comment if you have any fantasy football questions. We would absolutely love to answer those questions for you and help you set your lineup, because that's definitely what we want to do. I know we're going to be talking through things, and it could definitely change how I set my lineup as well. So super excited for it. Nonetheless, we're going to have a great show today. And I guess let's go ahead. Let's get into some of the big news and notes that have gone on since our last podcast. If you don't know, we are 3 times a week now. So we have shows dropping on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. So Tuesday is primarily our waiver wire show, and we'll do some other things with that. On Thursday show, we'll have the Thursday night preview, maybe some in and out, maybe some lineup advice, start sit, that kind of thing. And then Saturday is just a whole bunch of matchup previews, talking through the matchups. Who are you playing? Who are you not playing? We got news and notes every single day, but of course some news has come out since then. So let's go ahead, Pride. Let's get into the news and notes here. And let's start with the Detroit Lions and wide receiver Kenny Golladay. He has been downgraded to doubtful with a hamstring injury. This is somebody who is a 12 o'clock game, and you probably drafted him to be potentially your wide receiver one. I know in all of our drafts, he was going at kind of the late second round. So you probably got somebody like a Zeke, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry. You probably drafted a running back. So this is your number one wide receiver, and he's got a hamstring injury. If you haven't been with us, I hate hamstring injuries. Hamstring injuries are absolutely awful. I despise hamstring injuries. And for that reason, I really don't think that this is somebody who you can put out in your starting lineup today. Yeah, comparatively, and we'll get into it when we talk about Mike Evans, but Kenny Galladay is somebody who I love as a wide receiver. I thought he was going to be the number one wide receiver on the year. Obviously, if he misses that game, it's going to be significantly harder for him to do that. But with him being downgraded to doubtful instead of Mike Evans being upgraded to something better than doubtful, that kind of gives me concern. And so I think this game, I think you have to be out on Kenny Galladay. Pride, are you with me on that one?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the first week of the season, I think it's the week where you don't want to take really any risks right now. If one of your guys is hurt or just looking like he's not really going to play that much, I think it's best for you to just switch him out with the backup on your lineup, because I just can't take that risk.
Pride, let's say you're somebody who maybe you decide you're going to grab all the wide receivers for the Detroit Lions, right? And you have taken Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones. Are you playing Marvin Jones over Kenny Galladay today? I think I am.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I know Mike always loves to say it. What's his line?
It's the best ability is availability. Put that on a t-shirt. God dang it.
So, yeah, I mean, I think Marvin Jones, even when Galladay plays, he's a great option. And if Galladay doesn't play, then that just bumps him up even more.
To me, I think Marvin Jones, especially if Kenny Galladay misses, is easily a top 24 wide receiver on the week. I mean, he's going to get absolutely peppered with targets. I imagine he's going to come away with 10 targets, probably at least 6 receptions on those. Who knows what he's going to do with them? But Marvin Jones, to me, is somebody who you have to be putting in your flex right now, because even if Kenny Galladay is out there, he's not going to be 100%. He could, like Adam Thielen last season, injure himself on the 4th play of the game and be out, and then it's going to be the Marvin Jones show. So to me, I think somebody who's really sneaky is putting Marvin Jones in your flex right now. I really do think that could be a serious positive move for your fantasy team and your fantasy lineup this week. Let's move on to our next piece of news, and we're going to talk here about Diontae Johnson with that foot injury. Got in a couple of full practices. So this is somebody who I think was drafted mainly as a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. Can he blow up? Kind of similar to a Marquise Hollywood Brown, but maybe a little bit worse. I don't see a world where I'm looking to play him. Maybe if you've got somebody like what's the other Monday night game? Maybe if you've got Courtland Sutton. If you have Courtland Sutton and you're not sure what to do with that shoulder injury, maybe you have Diontae Johnson on your bench, and I think that would allow you to actually potentially play Courtland Sutton, but then also be able to put Diontae Johnson in if Courtland Sutton's not able to go. Pride, what is your heat check, I guess, with Diontae Johnson? Is this somebody that's going in your lineup? Is this somebody who's wait and see what he is with Big Ben? Is this somebody who, they got a positive matchup? Maybe he is worth putting in the flex, because let's be honest, this is a flex guy. Is he worth flexing in your opinion?
Well, I love that I love how you started that off, because I was one of those guys who went wide receiver heavy early in one of my drafts and got Diontae Johnson with that. And I think, I would have to sit him this week, because I think it is a big risk. I mean, I think everyone drafted him because out of all the wide receivers in Pittsburgh last year, dealing with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, he was probably the best out of them, one of the more consistent performers. But I think with Big Ben back in there, I think you need to take a week and just see how he works with him, because I think Juju is going to go back up to the level that or at least close to the level that we think he can be. But Diontae Johnson and James Washington, I think you have to see how they fit with Roethlisberger back in the lineup.
Yeah, I agree, because Diontae Johnson was somebody who was really, really good with absolutely terrible quarterback play last year. He was the best wide receiver on that team. So this is a thing where I really do think that he can have success over the season, but maybe week 1, unless I've got Courtland Sutton, I'm probably going to be sitting him this week, because I want to see if the hype is real. I want to see. Also, this is Big Ben's first game back with a major elbow injury. So I think it's okay to pump the brakes on Deontay Johnson this
Yeah.
first week.
Yeah, I mean they say his elbow is fine, but I mean that could just be coach talk, and I mean you never really know until he actually plays.
Exactly. And I mean, looking at the injury, this was something that was very comparable to Tommy John surgery for baseball pitchers. And we know how long it takes for baseball guys to get back after Tommy John. Sometimes it takes over a year, and Big Ben's just going to be coming back in under a year. I don't know how I feel about that. Thankfully, they have a positive matchup, and James Conner is at least healthy for this first game. But I don't think so. I don't think so. I think this is something where I'm gonna have to wait and see when it comes to Big Ben. And really, that's why I stayed away from Juju. I thought Juju was way too high of a draft capital you had to spend on that guy for something you might not even know what he is, especially with Big Ben. James Conner, probably, if he stays healthy, he's going to be an absolute steal from where people were getting him, but that's a massive question mark. James Washington, I don't believe in. Deontay Johnson, I think that ADP was pretty good. If I could have got him a couple rounds later, that would have made me even more happy, but that's all right. All right, Pride, let's talk Eagles. Let's start here with rookie Jalen Reagor. Off the injury report, looks like he's going to be good to go Sunday. I know last podcast I said that they might just sit him down just in case, but I mean, it looks as though he's going to be playing, and he's not on the injury report. Is this somebody with Alshon Jeffrey out? Miles Sanders, we'll get to it in a second, is not out, is not playing. He's out. He didn't even make the trip. Is this a wide receiver you're actually thinking about putting in your flex? Because in my opinion, it's absolutely not. I think that Deshaun Jackson should go in your flex 100 times before you should put Jalen Reagor in your flex. I mean, look at what Deshaun Jackson did last year, first game against the Washington football team. He was a top 12 wide receiver on the week. I don't think Jalen Reagor is going to give that to you. He can be fine, but I think the better play is to go with Deshaun Jackson here. What do you think, Pride?
I think I would have to agree with you there. Deshaun Jackson would probably be the smarter play because Jalen Reagor, he is going to be a rookie. This is going to be his first game. And on top of that, yeah, he's going to make the trip. He's at least healthy enough to be at the game. But I think reports were out all this week that he was just limited at practice for most of the week. And so that still brings me some concern. And, as long as Deshaun Jackson is fully healthy, I think you just got to go with him.
Yeah, I completely agree. Deshaun Jackson was an absolute ADP steal this year. This is somebody you drafted as like the 60th wide receiver off the board, somebody in the double-digit rounds who's literally a starting wide receiver that you can throw into your flex right now, week 1, and it's the best time to put him in your flex. This is the absolute best time to put Deshaun Jackson in your flex because he's still healthy. He's going up against a bad defense. I really do love Deshaun Jackson. This is somebody who, in my opinion, is definitely going to be a top 24 wide receiver this week. Let's stick here with the Eagles. Let's talk Miles Sanders, Pride. This is the big one. We kind of kicked off the show a little bit with it. Miles Sanders is not going to play today. This was somebody who was either drafted in the first round or very early in the second round in a ton of drafts. This is a running back who people, including myself, think can be top 8 this season if given the workload. What is the worst thing that can happen? Not getting the workload. This hamstring injury is incredibly concerning to me. But real quick, Pride, before we get to this, we did just get a question in. Welcome in, Green Light. Hopefully you're enjoying the stream. Let's go ahead and pop his question up on the screen right now, Pride. Let's talk about this. Are you going Cam Newton or Carson Wentz today?
That is a difficult one. I think I would have to go Carson Wentz because I like kind of the safer pick there. Cam Newton, he's on a new team in a different style of offense. We haven't really seen the Patriots with an offense that would fit a QB of Newton's style, obviously, since they've had Tom Brady for practically since anyone was born. So it's going to be interesting to see that, but this first week, I think I would have to go with Carson Wentz because even though his number one wide receiver is injured, I think that he's still shown that he's able to put up decent numbers with backups and all that.
Yeah, I think here as well, I'm going with Carson Wentz. I'm going to try to pull it up real quick what Carson Wentz did last year against the Washington football team week 1. Like we literally just talked about with Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson had a great game, so Carson Wentz as well had a great game, and I'll just pull it up real quick for everyone so that way we can talk about it. Last year, week 1 against Washington, Carson Wentz had 25 fantasy points. That was the most that he had during the entire 2019 fantasy football season. He was 28 of 39 for 313 and 3 touchdowns. This is somebody who you absolutely have to have in your lineup over Cam Newton. I love Cam Newton, and I think he's going to be in a good place in New England, but I think week 1, this matchup is just too easy to go with Carson Wentz here. It's a bad Washington football team defense, and Carson Wentz is a gamer. He's got Deshaun Jackson. When those two played together, it equaled the highest fantasy production from Carson Wentz in 2019. I think Carson Wentz absolutely has to be your start here, Greenlight. Hopefully you're enjoying the stream. Hopefully everyone's enjoying the stream. If you have any questions, please make sure you put them in the comments. We'll put them up on the screen, and we will talk through them. We love to answer questions. We love to help set the lineup. So really appreciate your question, Greenlight. Appreciate you stopping by this stream. Pride, let's get back to the Eagles running back situation. We're dealing with Miles Sanders being out right now. So this was obviously super tough. But what do you do now? Do you play Boston Scott? Do you play Corey Kmet? Do you go in another direction? Is it worth playing either of those Eagles running backs in this game, or are you going somewhere else?
I think I would be looking to go somewhere else because I think without Miles Sanders there, I loved watching Boston Scott last season when he had to take over for Miles Sanders, I believe, in the divisional round, and also some of the late weeks when he would get in on snaps. But with Corey Clement healthy now, I feel like they're just going to split up the snaps so much between the two, Scott and Clement, that it's not really going to benefit either one of them. So I'd be looking to just find the next guy up on your roster and play him instead as your RB2.
Yeah, I think personally I'm worried about Boston Scott and Corey Clement. I think Boston Scott could be a good play, but I also see a serious reality in which he gets his, I guess, workload vultured by Corey Clement. I don't think Corey Clement is going to give you enough of a workload to be happy to put out in your starting lineup, but Boston Scott worries me. And I think this is someone who is going to be involved in the passing game, but I just don't really have a ton of confidence. I know he was really good last year towards the end of the season, but let's maybe talk about this, Pride. Would you rather play Ronald Jones, who has a workload right now, especially with this being Leonard Fournette, only being there for 9 days or however long it's been, not very long. Would you rather play Ronald Jones against the Saints, knowing he's probably getting a lot of first and second down work, or would you rather play Boston Scott against the Washington football team?
That's an interesting question. I think in that situation, I've been really getting off of the Ronald Jones train over the past couple of days with Leonard Fournette being there. I think I might actually go with Boston Scott just because of the matchup. I mean, that Washington football team defensive front is kind of tough. They've got some pretty talented rookies with like Chase Young and Montez Sweat, but I just think that Boston Scott would be better able to get out to the sides, get some swing passes out there, and kind of get into that secondary of Washington, which is not as good. Whereas I think with Ronald Jones, he's more of a downhill runner, and I think he'd have more trouble kind of getting past the Saints defensive front seven. And so I think just because of the matchup, I might lean towards Boston Scott in that situation.
I guess, Pride, then give me what running back are you willing to play over Boston Scott? Is it Jordan Howard, Kareem Hunt, maybe a Matt Breida? What about any of those guys, I guess?
I think I'd be most comfortable with Jordan Howard to start at the front because I think in week 1 he'll get more touches than Matt Breida down in Miami. And
this is a good one. Sorry, Pride. Would you rather play Chris Thompson or David Montgomery against over Boston Scott and Ronald Jones?
I think I would have to say David Montgomery since in one of my leagues I did switch Miles Sanders out for David Montgomery. And I think especially in the first week matchup with the Bears going up against the Detroit Lions, I'm not very impressed by the Lions defense. And so I think David Montgomery can have a very nice blow up game, and especially with how the Bears are, I believe, are the Bears starring Mitchell Trubisky?
Yes, they are. It is confirmed
Yeah,
that Trubisky will start.
so yeah, their passing game is going to be really going for them. So hopefully David Montgomery can get started on the ground.
Does the injury for David Montgomery in that groin concern you at all this game, Pride? Because it concerns me. I think I'd rather sit him if I can, but this is a situation where I think I'd rather play Jordan Howard over Boston Scott, and I'd rather play. I think I'd rather play Boston Scott over Kareem Hunt this week. I think Kareem Hunt has a role, but I think against that Ravens defense, I'd rather stay away from it, even though the Browns will be having to come from behind and maybe passing the ball to Kareem Hunt more. But I think I'd rather go with Boston Scott this week. Pride, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can kind of understand that. I mean, the Ravens always, year in and year out, have a tough defense, so I can understand how, even though Kareem Hunt's probably going to be receiving back, that might be a tough matchup. And also, with your starting Jordan Howard, like I said, Jordan Howard or David Montgomery, I honestly would not. I would be happy either way, starting either one of those guys over Boston Scott. It's just, obviously you'd rather start Miles Sanders over either of them, but that's just not an option right now. So yeah, really either one of those two I think would be a good matchup. It just really depends on who you like, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. All right, Pride. Well, we've talked about Miles Sanders. Let's move on to another big name, and this big name is Mike Evans. Mike Evans is somebody who has been dealing with this hamstring all week. This injury he's been, probably going to miss the game. Now he's doubtful. Now he's questionable. Oh, now he might be able to play. Oh, it's a game time decision. We don't exactly know what's up with Mike Evans right now. He's currently listed as doubtful. Unfortunately, they do play later on in the day. So this is something where you're having to make a decision right now about what to do with Mike Evans. Is Mike Evans a start or sit for you right now, Pride?
Right now, with just the doubt all around him, I'm probably reaching for my wide receiver 3 to take his place, because I said it before in the stream, I don't like just having injuries going into the first week. I know I said in the last question that I'd like to start David Montgomery, but as for wide receivers, I feel like injuries aren't as sustainable for them, and especially going against the Saints defense, he probably would be covered a lot by Marshawn Lattimore, and so I'd probably be looking to sit him right now and wait for next week.
Evans, to me, is somebody who I don't want to put in my lineup. I really don't. I like I said earlier in the stream as well, I hate hamstring injuries. Hamstring injuries are absolutely awful to me, and this is a game where they're going to have to be scoring points to keep up with the Saints, but also I don't like Mike Evans in the first place this year for fantasy. I've got him outside the top 24 because I don't think he's going to be used. I don't think Tom Brady's going to be able to get him the ball like Jameis Winston was. And I think Chris Godwin's going to be a top 10 wide receiver this year. So I have my concerns already about Mike Evans. Now you bring in a hamstring injury. I think for me, Mike Evans as well is a sit this week. This is somebody who, if I had to choose, this is a good one, Pride. Would you rather play, or I guess who would you play, Marvin Jones or Mike Evans?
I think in this week, I'd have to say Marvin Jones. We kind of talked about it earlier with Kenny Golladay hurt. I think Marvin Jones will have an increased role in the Lions offense. Even if Golladay does play, I think it will just be in a limited role. Whereas Mike Evans, like you said, I'm not sure how Tom Brady will get him the ball. It's all, apart from his injury, it's also concerning we don't know how this Buccaneers offense will play with Tom Brady there. And so honestly, Marvin Jones might be the safer bet to go with this week, just because Mike Evans is hurt and we don't know how the offense will run. Whereas in Detroit, Matt Patricia, we've seen how his offense runs in Detroit. Matthew Stafford's going to sling that ball, and even if Kenny Golladay is full and participating, Marvin Jones is still going to have a decent role in that offense. And I think that's more than you can say for Mike Evans.
Yeah. We did just get another question coming in here from Jack. Do we start Scotty Miller then instead of Mike Evans? That's interesting, Pride. This is a wide receiver who low-key has been getting a ton of hype out of camp, and Tom Brady has talked him up. He was okay towards the back half of last year. Scotty Miller, in my opinion, is somebody who is a DFS play. And I think I would rather go in a different direction in my flex. I think I'd rather play a Marvin Jones. I think I'd almost rather play AJ Green over Scotty Miller. Deontay Johnson or Scotty Miller. Probably we talked about Deontay Johnson a little bit earlier. Which one are you going with? And what are you doing with Scotty Miller this week? Especially if it comes down to the point if Mike Evans is out, I think Scotty Miller is a much more attractive option. But if Mike Evans is in, I just don't think you can start Scotty Miller with any confidence unless we're talking a 14 or a 16-team league and you need to play somebody. Your thoughts, Pride?
I mean, my first thought when you brought it up would be Deontay Johnson, but honestly, I think Scotty Miller might be a better option right there just because, I mean, I'm still worried about Big Ben's health, but also, the more I think about it, maybe Scotty Miller becomes the Tampa Bay equivalent to Julian Edelman for Tom Brady. That's just a funny thought that came into my head. But, I mean, if he really likes him, I feel like Tom Brady is one of those guys. If he likes a player, he's going to get them the ball. Same thing with kind of Rob Gronkowski in New England. But, yeah, if Mike Evans doesn't play, then I might be attracted to starting Scotty Miller in his place.
That's interesting. That's a really interesting comparison that he could be the Julian Edelman of this team. That is really interesting. In my opinion, I think it's more likely going to be Chris Godwin than Scotty Miller. But this week, I think I'd rather go in a different direction, to be completely honest. I just don't have enough confidence in Scotty Miller. I'd like to see him do it 1 week before I put him in my lineup. I think I'd rather play Deontay Johnson. I think I'd rather play Sterling Shepard. I'd rather play Marvin Jones, AJ Green, Jameson Crowder. Yeah, there's a plenty other wide receivers, in my opinion, that I would rather play over Scotty Miller. Excellent question, Jack. Hopefully you're enjoying this stream. Love to see it. Like always, if you do have a question, please drop it in the comments. We'd love to discuss. We want to help set your lineup and just talk fantasy football with you guys. Hopefully you are enjoying this stream. Let's, I guess, move on. I feel as though we've talked the Mike Evans situation pretty well. And let's just go ahead and go on to our next piece of news. This one, Julio Jones with a hamstring injury. Golly, Pride, I just feel like it's hamstring. This should be the hamstring special or something. That's what we should name this. I don't know, man. But he has been limited, but will play against Seattle. It feels as though it's always something with this guy. Julio Jones always has some sort of injury, always is hobbled. For that reason, decided I'm not going to play that game this year. He doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. Now he has a hamstring injury. He's not going to be 100% against the Seattle Seahawks. This, to me, makes Calvin Ridley an absolute smash play. But do you have confidence in Julio Jones? Is this enough of news for you to sit Julio Jones? I don't think so. I think you, unfortunately, still have to put him out there and could face the consequences of putting him out there.
Listen, Q, you said he always plays this game. He's always hobbled, and he always performs. I know he's hurt, but like you said, he's been hurt in the past, and he's still able to put up these types of numbers. And so, yeah, it's concerning, obviously, but I think with a guy like Julio Jones, you still have to play him. You probably picked him up in the early second round, probably second round pick for you. And so I think if he's your number one wide receiver, you have to stick with him because he's shown you in the past that even when he's hurt, he's still going to get targets and he's still going to bring in big receptions. He's just, as the meme would say, he's built different.
Yeah. That's true. That's a good point. That is a good point, Pride. I think you do have to put him on your lineup. Calvin Ridley should definitely be in your lineup. Calvin Ridley is a really strong flex play, in my opinion, this week.
Yeah, I mean, even when Julio Jones plays, Calvin Ridley, I think, is going to be a solid flex throughout the entire season.
Yeah. Well, we're halfway through today's live stream. We got 30 minutes left. If you do have fantasy questions, please, like I just said, put them in the comments. We want to talk about them. We want to help set your lineup and talk about them. But let's get back to some more news. Here we go. Amari Cooper is good to go. That's good to hear. I mean, that's a lot better than hearing he's not good to go. That's for dang sure. So, I mean, he's going to be in your lineup against the Rams. Brashad Perryman for the Jets with that knee injury will play against the Bills. Okay, not going to be playing him. Sean McVay saying Darrell Henderson Jr. is a go for Sunday night. Okay, not going to be playing him. Let's talk San Francisco, and we can sit here for a little bit. Deebo Samuel first reported that with that foot injury, he was declared out for week 1. But then it later came out that he is on the IR and he's going to be out for at least 3 weeks. What do you make of that, Pride? Is this somebody you're going to be holding on to? Or is it maybe I'm going to drop him, look for someone else? Me personally, put him in your IR slot. Go pick somebody else up. I mean, hell, you can go pick up Scotty Miller or whomever you want. Malcolm Brown for the Ravens, or not the Ravens, the Rams. That's going to be a hot name to pick up, I feel, so this next on Monday for waiver wire. So what do you do with Deebo Samuel? How concerning is this? Because literally earlier this week they said this guy was going to be ready to go for week 1, and now he's definitely going to miss 3 weeks.
Yeah, this is definitely concerning because coming into the season, I thought Deebo Samuel would be the only valuable wide receiver on this 49ers offense, and with him out, it feels like it's going to be a lot of the same from last year, that George Kittle may be their only valuable fantasy option week in and week out, because running backs still, I feel, are going to be switching between Tevin Coleman and Raheem Mostert, so I don't have any confidence in that. And Deebo Samuel, I really felt like could be another week in and week out option for the 49ers. But with
Pride,
him being
real
out,
quick, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we did just get breaking news in. Kenny Golladay is officially inactive today versus Chicago. So get Kenny Golladay out of there. Put somebody else in there. Kenny Golladay will be missing today against Chicago. Marvin Jones should be a really good play for you. Continue, Pride. Sorry for interrupting.
nice. Yeah, and so Deebo Samuel, with him being out 3 weeks, yeah, that really sucks. You're gonna have to start. I think I usually draft him as maybe a flex play, maybe a wide receiver too. So get your 4th wide receiver out there instead of him. Maybe look to try and trade for a 4th wide receiver. But being out 3 weeks, I'd be with you. I'd say just put him in your IR slot. When he does come back, I think he is going to be a solid option for you. It just stinks that you won't be able to start out with him.
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, thankfully you were able to get some sort of draft day discount on him. But at what point does he no longer become a value? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we're going to see the likes of Doug Baldwin with Deebo Samuel. But remember when Doug Baldwin was the absolute man for Seattle, and then he had that hamstring injury, and then he pretty much fell off the face of the earth. And by the end of the year, he wasn't even on a team. So, I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen with Deebo Samuel, but potentially could happen. We did just get another question in, Pride, coming in from Tone Sports Cards. We've got who's the back to own for the Washington football team in fantasy heading into week 1. On the official depth chart, they have J.D. McKissic as the number 1. I don't think J.D. McKissic is the number 1. I don't think Peyton Barber is the number 1. I think, unfortunately, this is a situation in which a lot of people drafted Antonio Gibson, and it's going to take some big plays and him working himself in. This could be something kind of similar to Miles Sanders last year, where Miles Sanders, the first 8 games, he was not very good, but then the last 8 games, he was really good for your fantasy team. So I think Antonio Gibson is the running back to inevitably own, but it is going to take a little bit before you can actually play him with some confidence. What are your thoughts there on this question, Pride?
Yeah, I think I can get that. I mean, Washington, they have a new coach in Ron Rivera. They have a really young team that is going to have to get used to his playbook. And so I think week 1, it might be difficult to start anyone, but if I think there was anyone to own, it would be Antonio Gibson. Obviously, I've been high on him a lot. I try to draft him in almost every league that I've been in because I think that he can really have a breakout game. And if anyone in the Washington backfield is going to have a good week 1, I feel like it's going to be Antonio Gibson, even though I am starting J.D. McKissic on my all initials team.
Right, that's a funny team. I do like that. That's good stuff. Yeah, so Antonio Gibson's the guy to own. J.D. McKissic and Peyton Barber, in my opinion, are the definition of just guys, and no need to really have them on your team. They might blow up week 1, but I still would not go spend a ton of fab on them. We got more questions coming in. Love to see it. Let's go back to Jack here. He's got a tight end question. Are you Pride, we know the answer to this one for you. Are you starting Jack Doyle against the Jaguars? Or are you starting TJ Hawkinson against the Chicago Bears? This is a toughie for me, but I think, in my opinion, you got to go Jack Doyle. Jack Doyle, to me, is the more safe play. I think he's going to get more targets from Phillip Rivers. And even, actually, you know what? Hold on. That's a really good question, especially with Kenny Golladay being out. TJ Hawkinson could be getting more work, but with that injury that's still been bothering him a lot in training camp, I've got my questions about him, and I just don't think that I can start him this week. So even though I did have that quick hesitation, I think I do go Jack Doyle here. Jack Doyle is probably going to get in the range of 6 targets in this game. We know Phillip Rivers loves to throw to his tight end, so I'm going with Jack Doyle here. Pride, are you going Hawkinson or Doyle?
I mean, Doyle, I think, is a very nice option. Obviously, we know how much Phillip Rivers loves to throw to the tight end, but I think with the Kenny Golladay injury, that might push Hawkinson above Doyle for me. I mean, I do like Hawkinson, and also with this Bears defense, I know the linebackers are a tough team, are a tough core, but I mean, the Bears linebackers, I feel, are more pass rushing linebackers than they are coverage kind of linebackers. And so I think Hawkinson can find some space in the middle, especially with Danny Amendola probably being relegated out to the sides now rather than being in the slot a lot. And so I think that Hawkinson, with the injury, can become more valuable this week.
Yeah, so we got another question coming in again from Tone Sports Cards. Now, what are you doing with the Colts backfield? This is referring back to the initial question about the Washington football team backfield, who's to own heading into fantasy for week 1. Now we're talking about the Colts backfield. I think you can have all 3 of these running backs on your fantasy team. I mean, I wouldn't recommend literally actually having all 3 on the same fantasy team, but I think all 3 of these guys should be owned for a couple of reasons. Marlon Mack is still going to be involved. The Colts still like Marlon Mack. So at least for the first 4 weeks, he's going to have work. He's going to be the lead dog. I think he's going to more than likely get 65% of the rushing attempts. And then we're going to be seeing the likes of Jonathan Taylor getting some work. We're going to see Nyheim Hines a lot on 3rd down. So I think he's going to be a good play if you're in a full PPR league. But this week, against the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think this is a week in which you can play Marlon Mack with some confidence, but also Jonathan Taylor, in my opinion, is a super sneaky play. I think he's going to get at least 8 rushing attempts. I mean, you can't tell me in the second half when they're blowing out the Jags that they're not going to see what their new shiny toy can do. So this is a garbage league kind of play, but I do think that you can play Jonathan Taylor this week. Pride, do you agree with that, or is it just Marlon Mack for you?
I think if you really like him, you can play Jonathan Taylor. I would probably just stick to Marlon Mack. I think the first week they'll probably just let the rookie kind of get to know anything, maybe give him a couple snaps, see how he does with the game speed. But I think this is going to be Marlon Mack's week. Like you said, in the 3rd quarter when they're blowing out the Jaguars, they probably are going to run the ball a lot, and so you'll just get a lot of carries from them. And I think going through the entire season, this Colts backfield will probably become just kind of a game-to-game kind of situation of who to start. I think if they will be playing a tough matchup, playing from behind, I think Nyheim Hines can be a good guy to start because they're going to have to throw it a lot, and he's obviously the receiving back coming out of the backfield. But, if they do have an easy matchup like the Jaguars, like they do in week 1, then Marlon Mack or Jonathan Taylor, if he takes over, will be the guys to start.
Yeah, I think that's good. Love all the questions coming in, guys. Like I said in the comments just now, we will be answering all the questions. So if you did put a question in, make sure you do stick with us. We are going to answer them all. We got at least 20 minutes left, so going to try to get through them all. Thanks, everyone, for stopping by. This is the first time that we're doing this. Hopefully you're having a good time. If you are, show us you're having a good time. Put something in the comments, like the video, tag us on Twitter at TimesQPod. Let us know if you're enjoying this. Let us know if you want us to continue to do this on Sunday mornings. We do appreciate you guys stopping by. Let's get to our next question coming in from Michael. Is Curtis Samuel a flex option against the Raiders in week 1? That's a good question. I think the answer is no. Here's why. The last things that I was hearing out of camp, Curtis Samuel was not looking good. We don't know what this offense is going to look like, bringing in a bunch of college guys. We know that Teddy Bridgewater is a pretty good quarterback, but this is a wide receiver who typically gets his yardage down the field. I understand this Raiders defense is not very good, but I think this week I would rather wait a week. Again, I'm going to go back to Marvin Jones. I've said Marvin Jones a lot. I'd rather have Marvin Jones in there comparatively to Curtis Samuel. I'd rather play A.J. Green. I think this week I would almost rather also play Deontay Johnson over Curtis Samuel. I think that's really kind of the breaking point for me. Deontay Johnson and Curtis Samuel. I think I slightly give the edge to Deontay Johnson. Pride, what are you doing here?
I think I'm right with you. I'm not going to start Curtis Samuel. Like I said earlier this week, I think this is going to be a big Joey Sly game. I think they're going to be able to get the ball down the field. I just don't think that they're going to score many points or really get in the red zone too often. So I think that's really going to hurt Curtis Samuel, and it's just going to make the only valuable guys DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. And, maybe in later weeks when kind of they get used to Matt Rule's offense and the rookies get more accommodated into the offense, then Curtis Samuel might be a good flex option. But this week, even though it's against the Raiders, who I'm not really a big fan of the Raiders defense, I just don't think he's going to get enough work to make it worth it.
Make it worth it. Yeah, I agree with you. Our next question coming in here, we've got, is J.K. Dobbins or Cam Akers? Which one are you starting straight up today? That's just tough. They're both rookies. I'm projecting Malcolm Brown to get more work than Cam Akers. That's what I've also been hearing from beat reporters. So I think this week, man, that's really tough. If the option is neither, then let's go with neither here. But if I have to pick one, if I absolutely have to pick one, I guess I am going to go with Cam Akers because I do see him inevitably getting more work this weekend than J.K. Dobbins. I think Mark Ingram is going to really be the solid running back for this team throughout the course of this year. J.K. Dobbins could get a series here or there, maybe be the third down back, but I do think Cam Akers has a more potential, more opportunity. Let's say Malcolm Brown comes out and fumbles on the first drive. It could be the Cam Akers show, or he can't get into the end zone. He can't pick up the first down. It could become the Cam Akers show. So I'm going Cam Akers. Pride, do you agree with me here?
I think I'd have to agree with you there. I mean, even though I think J.K. Dobbins could become a little useful in the first week as being just maybe a receiving back for the Ravens, I think in the end, the Ravens, they've already got two very competent runners in Mark Ingram and Lamar Jackson who can run the ball. So I just don't think there will be really any carries reserved for Dobbins to take. Whereas Cam Akers, like you said, if Malcolm Brown or Darrell Henderson just aren't getting the job done, Cam Akers can come in and just take over for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I like that. Let's move on to our next question here. Coming in, Robert Woods or Terry McLaurin as the wide receiver 2 to half point per reception league? This is a good question. This is actually a really good question. Robert Woods is definitely, in my opinion, the safer guy to go with just because this is going to be someone who, in my opinion, is never going to give you those 20-plus point games, but you can pencil him in for about 10 points every single week. No worries. He's going to get it for sure. He's going to end as a wide receiver 2. Now, the F1 fighter jet, Terry McLaurin, on the other hand, he was pretty good against Philadelphia last year, but Dwayne Haskins is the starting quarterback. They are at home, but I think inevitably I'm going Robert Woods here over Terry McLaurin as a wide receiver 2.5 point per reception league. Terry McLaurin, I think he's a good guy. I think he's a great wide receiver, but I want to see another game with Dwayne Haskins just because he really was not good with Dwayne Haskins. I mean, he really fell off the face of the earth over the back half of last year. So I want to see a week where I think Robert Woods has more opportunity, and I'm going Robert Woods here. Pride, who are you going with?
I think I would have to agree with you there. I'd have to go with Robert Woods as well. I mean, the Cowboys, I think their cornerbacks are Trevon Diggs and Anthony Brown, two guys I'm not really scared of, whereas Terry McLaurin, he's going to have to probably go up against big play Darius Slay in Philadelphia, and so I'm just worried about that matchup right there. And obviously the quarterback comparison, Jared Goff obviously isn't the most flashy quarterback, but I think in the Sean McVay offense, he can get it done against the Cowboys. And I mean, just the Cowboys and Rams game is probably going to be very high scoring. So we'll probably continue throwing the ball into the fourth quarter. Whereas the Philadelphia Eagles, if they take a lead early, they may just start running it and just run out the clock.
Yeah, I really do think that's some good advice right there. Also, thank you for the positive words. Really appreciate it. Hopefully you are enjoying this live stream. Make sure you guys do like the video, comment, whatever, tag us on Twitter. Let us know you are enjoying this so we continue to do this. And this is something that you guys think it is valuable. So let's move on to our next question here. Pride. Jonnu Smith, is he worth the hype? He's 50% rostered, coming in from the T Co. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's worth the hype. It really is worth the hype, in my opinion. I've been somebody who's been on Jonnu Smith this season. I think he's going to have a good season. I was only able to get him in one league. I'm a little disappointed about that.
Sorry.
This is somebody, thanks, Pride. Yeah. You know what? I almost forgot who took him from me in both of our main leagues. It was you. Pride.
I only took him in one of our main leagues.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the most important league. That's the league of record. That's the money league. That is trash, Pride. That is truly upsetting that you did that to me, because you didn't even like him this offseason. I was on him. So that's honestly super annoying. But yes, he's worth the hype. I think you can play him this week. If you've got to choose between Chris Herndon and Jonnu Smith, Jonnu Smith all day this week, especially with Von Miller being out. I don't think they're going to be able to really cover Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith, I'm looking for him to be a monster this week. I really do like him. Probably let's move on to our next question here, coming in from Rock Out. Hopefully you're enjoying the stream, my man. Thank you for your question. Deshaun Jackson or Michael Gallup, full PPR going into flex. I think it's got to be Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson had a massive week last year against the Washington football team in week 1. He's coming into this year healthy. Alshon Jeffrey is not there. Miles Sanders is not there. I think it's got to be Deshaun Jackson. I'm personally someone who's not worried about the fact that CeeDee Lamb is there and Michael Gallup's going to be worse. I think that this is just going to be a week for Deshaun Jackson. We talked about it a little bit earlier on the stream, and I do like Deshaun Jackson here. Pride, who are you going with?
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with Deshaun Jackson there. But honestly, either one of these guys, I would not be upset playing. I think Michael Gallup, he can have a good week against the Rams. I think Jalen Ramsey might be put a lot on Mari Cooper, which could open up Michael Gallup to get a lot of targets, get a lot of receptions. And really, either one I'd be fine with. But just because of the matchup, I think I would have to go with Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, I really do expect Deshaun Jackson to have a really good week this week. Moving on to our next question, coming in again from Tone Sports Cards. Thank you for all the questions, Tones. James White, Kerryon Johnson, or Austin Hooper, or Scotty Miller in a standard non-PPR flex spot this week. This is an interesting question here. This is a lot of options to go with. It's non-PPR, so Austin Hooper and Scotty Miller, in my opinion, are probably going to be out. James White is interesting, but I think I'm going to go with Kerryon Johnson this week. I think they are going to be able to run the ball this week. And let's not forget that Adrian Peterson just came into town. He's not going to have a high workload. DeAndre Swift is not going to be a factor this game. Bo Scarborough's on the IR. So I think I'm going Kerryon Johnson. I think Kerryon Johnson, he is healthy. He's wearing the knee brace, but as he has said, the knee brace and him have become one. So I think, Mike talked about it on the podcast. That is one of those things where, when people, get injured multiple times, the brace does make them feel more safe and secure. I would feel more safe and secure with it, honestly. Like when I destroyed my ankle playing basketball, I should have worn an ankle brace the next time I went out there, because I definitely was not going for any rebounds. But Kerryon Johnson, I think that's the play here. Pride, who are you going with?
I think I would go with James White. Kerryon Johnson, I kind of said it earlier when I was talking about TJ Hawkinson. I think this Bears linebacking core is great at pass rushing, and I think run stopping kind of goes along with that. I think Kerryon Johnson might have a tough time today against their defense, as long as the Bears defense stays healthy, obviously. So I think James White might be a better play. I think he can be a nice little safety blanket for Cam Newton to have in his first game with the Patriots. And even though it's non-PPR, I think he can get enough receiving yards and maybe enough rushing work. I know obviously that'll be determined on how well Sony Michel or Rex Burkhead or Dion Harris run today, but he's still probably going to get some rushing work and with some receiving work to really bump up his stock. I think that's who I would have to go with for the flex.
Yeah, and you don't even have to worry about Dion Harris with him being on the IR. So it's really Sony Michel and James White. That could be a good play, but I'm going Kerryon Johnson. I think Kerryon Johnson's going to get more. Our next question coming in from Michael Trainer. Hopefully you're enjoying the stream, Mike. Thank you for your question. Who are you going with, Pride, Fournette or Montgomery? I think it's got to be Montgomery here. I don't think Fournette's going to get enough work to have more points than Montgomery. Montgomery's definitely going to be a volume play, even though he has this injury. I think he's going to be the play for you here over Fournette. I think Ronald Jones, especially for Week 1, is still going to be the guy. So I'm there for Montgomery. What about yourself, Fred?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, Fournette coming into a new team, it's just going to take some time for him to get used to the offense, get kind of used to the offensive line, even though it probably is easier for running backs to get accustomed to it. I think Week 1, you have to go with David Montgomery. He's been with the team, and I like the matchup against the Lions.
Yeah. Got another question coming in from the T Co. Cam Akers or Zach Moss? That's an interesting one. Zach Moss has been looking really good in camp, actually. And Devin Singletary has been dealing with some fumbling issues, Pride. He didn't get the work around the goal line last year. They are going up against a really bad Jets defense, though. So he should get good amount of work. Maybe they decide to put Zach Moss in there. I think this week I lean Cam Akers. I think he's going to get more rushes than Zach Moss. Right?
Yeah, I think most of the time I would go with you, but just for the sake of argument, I think Zach Moss could have a sneaky role in this week. I mean, like you said, Devin Singletary does have an issue with fumbling, and I think that this Bills team will be able to just kind of run down the field most drives against this Jets team. So if they get down in the red zone, Zach Moss might have a couple of nice carries, and he might be like a Jeff Wilson for those couple of weeks from last year and just get not a lot of yards, but some touchdowns. Oh, Jeff Wilson and Malcolm Brown from last year. We can't hear you, Q.
Sorry about that. We got a couple more questions that have just come in. Right here, we got David Montgomery or James Robinson, PPR league. I think you got to go David Montgomery. James Robinson, even though he is going to get a majority of the workload, I still believe the fact that Chris Thompson is the pass-catching back for this team. For that reason, I will go with David Montgomery because I think he'll get more yards than Robinson will. Let's not forget that this is an improved Colts defense. Adding in DeForest Buckner, I think this is actually going to be a really good defense. There's a reason why I grabbed him in every single league that I'm in. So I'm going with David Montgomery here. He's going to get more work. He could catch a couple of passes. I think Chris Thompson's the third down back. The Jags are going to be playing from behind the whole game. The Bears have a chance to be up, especially with Kenny Golladay out. I go David Montgomery. Pride, where are you going?
Yeah, I'd have to go with Montgomery too. James Robinson, I have become to like him more over the past week with Leonard Fournette being gone. I've kind of looked at his highlights and kind of got to know him more. But in this situation, I think I would still have to go with David Montgomery. You said it right, Q. I mean, that Colts defense, they have DeForest Buckner, they have Darius Leonard. I think it's just going to be a tough time for James Robinson to find holes. And, playing from behind, either of these teams playing from behind would probably be difficult for these running backs because obviously the Bears also have Tariq Cohen, who's a great pass-catching back. But I think David Montgomery would be the best choice.
Yeah, I like it. Well, guys, we've got 7 minutes left before the stream is over. Make sure if you have those questions, get them in there now so we can talk about them. Thank you, everyone who stopped by the stream. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for making this entertaining. Hopefully you are enjoying this stream. We'll answer as many as we possibly can. We're going to get through them all. Thank you for your question here. Let's move on to our next one. Coming in from Sam, Devontae Parker or Amari Cooper as the flex. Devontae Parker is going to be healthy and is going to be playing today. The last time he went up against Gilmore, he absolutely toasted him in the Dolphins, going on to win against the Patriots in Week 17 last year, securing your Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, that number 2 seed. I know you roll your eyes, Private. Man, that was a magical day. Anyways, I got to go Amari Cooper here. I think Amari Cooper is going to get – actually, no. I take that back. We see Amari Cooper disappear on the road, and we see Amari Cooper disappear against really good corners. I expect the money man, Ramsey, to be all over Cooper this week. So actually, I am going to be going with Devontae Parker this week over Amari Cooper. We at least have seen him have success against Gilmore. I know it's going to be a new season, but also that defense is missing a lot of pieces. So this could be a situation where Devontae Parker does find more, I guess, holes in that zone. and can get you more fantasy points. Amari Cooper just disappears too many times, and with being on the road and that number one corner on him, which he's typically bad against, yeah, I got to go Devontae Parker. Pride?
I think I have to go against you here. I think I'd have to go with Amari Cooper. I mean, Devontae Parker, yeah, he did toast Stephon Gilmore in Week 17 last year, but that just gives Gilmore more incentive to absolutely shut him down this week. I know the Patriots defense are coming with a vengeance in this Week 1 matchup, and so I'm a little worried about him being able to do it twice against Gilmore. Whereas Amari Cooper, yeah, he has trouble with Jalen Ramsey, but I mean, yeah, it's a road game, but is it really a road game if there aren't any fans in the stadium?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And so even with Jalen Ramsey there and covering him, I think he's just going to get more work than Devontae Parker. And I mean, this Cowboys offense, I feel like it was explosive last year. And I think with Mike McCarthy there, they'll actually be able to get in the end zone as much as their yards gained. Because I think last year the Cowboys had the most yards gained by an offense, but were only like sixth most in touches. So
Carson Williams could be a sneaky play also this week for the Dolphins. He is healthy. He's going to be in there. And if Parker is getting that coverage from Gilmore and isn't able to do anything, could be a sneaky play. Pride, let's move on. We got another question coming in from Patrick. Patrick, thank you for your question. PPR, are you going Ridley, Boston Scott, or Cooper Kupp? Which one do you sit? In my opinion, I think you sit Boston Scott, especially with Julio potentially limited and Cooper Kupp getting that big fat check coming in the mail. I go with Ridley and Kupp. Pride, do you agree?
1 second. I was just thinking of Alien because Ridley Scott. But yeah, I think I would have to go with – I think you'd have to sit Boston Scott just because I think being thrown into this role right now, it's going to be tough for him, whereas Cooper Kupp and Calvin Ridley, I think, are going to get a lot of work from their PPR plays. I mean, like you said, even if Julio Jones is in there, Calvin Ridley is going to be a nice play. And yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Let's move on to the next question. Thank you, Patrick, for your question. Thank you, Dion, for your question. Hunter Renfrow or Tyler Boyd? He later put in the chat, it is a PPR league. I think I go Tyler Boyd here, actually. Joe Burrow and Tyler Boyd have had a special connection from what we've been hearing out of training camp. I think this is a defense, especially with Darwin James not there, that Tyler Boyd can have some success this game. A.J. Green is finally back. Tyler Boyd was a better wide receiver when A.J. Green was there. Hunter Renfrow still has to deal with oh my gosh, Edwards. What is his first
Brian
name?
Edwards.
Brian Edwards. I want to say Run or something like that. Yeah, Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs are both listed as starting wide receivers. So I think Hunter Renfrow is going to be more of a second, third, fourth, fifth option, where Tyler Boyd, in my opinion, is the number 2 option. This is a game where Tyler Boyd can have some success. I go Tyler Boyd here. Pride, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with you. Just Tyler Boyd's going to be the number 2 on that roster, whereas Hunter Renfrow, he's going to be fighting for that even number 3 role. And so I think you just got to go with the guy who's higher on the depth chart.
Yeah, moving on to our next question coming in from Michael. Do you trust Clement or Scott this week with 3 of the Eagles starting linemen out? That's a fantastic point about the linemen being out, which just goes back to our argument earlier that we were talking about with these guys and probably why we're going to be sitting them if we can. And yeah, with the linemen out and with potentially both of those guys eating into each other's work, I think yes. I think those are sits if you've got other good options there. Let's move on to our next one. We are starting to run out of time, but we're going to answer all the questions we can. Coming in from Blue Crew. Blue Crew, thank you for tapping into the live stream. Thank you for your question. Thank you for your positive words. We do really appreciate that. We'll look forward to seeing you next week as well. He needs help with the flex start PPR. Melvin Gordon, Marquise, Hollywood Brown, or Zach Moss. Already starting Kamara and Drake at running back, Godwin and Thielen at wide receiver. Wow, this is the kind of question that I like. I love your team also, but this is the kind of question that I like. Give us as much information as you possibly can. Makes it so much easier. So we've already got Kamara and Drake there. We've already got Godwin and Thielen there. I really love both of those guys. So now it's, do you go with Melvin Gordon, who going on to a different team, and now being on that different team, Von Miller being out, they're probably going to be playing from behind. The Titans are probably going to be trying to run the ball a whole lot. So are they going to have to throw the ball a lot? I think the answer is probably going to be yes. Is he involved in the receiving game, or is it Philip Lindsay? That's a question yet to be determined. Zach Moss, I think, is out, in my opinion. So I think it's a decision between Melvin Gordon and between Marquise Hollywood Brown. I think here in this situation, it's tough, but I think because it is PPR, I think inevitably I am going to lean Melvin Gordon. I think Melvin Gordon can get at least 4 catches plus 50 yards, maybe a touchdown. So I think he's going to get more work. Now, it is a plus matchup for Brown going up against the Browns, but I think he's more likely only going to be getting in the area of at most 6 catches this week. So he can have a massive game, but I think inevitably I'm going to sit and I'm going to go with Melvin Gordon here. Pride?
Yeah, I can understand that because I think when it comes to the passing game, I think they will be playing from behind. And if Cortland Sutton is out or at least isn't 100%, then Melvin Gordon can get a lot of catches because I think he's a better receiving back than Philip Lindsay is. He wasn't really able to show it in San Diego or Los Angeles because Philip Lindsay or Austin Eckler was there and he got most of the receiving work out of the backfield. But I think now that they don't really have a solid receiving back, Melvin Gordon can kind of fit into that role in Denver. And I mean, I love Marquise Brown, though. I really do. So I might be leaning more towards Marquise Brown because I think Melvin Gordon would be the safer option. But I think in the flex spot, if you want a huge game, I think Marquise Brown is more likely to provide that for you than Melvin Gordon is because he could get 6 catches and it could be a bad game where those 6 catches only go for maybe like 40-something yards, or it could be a great game and he gets over 100 yards. I think he's just going to become a boom or bust kind of guy, and in a flex spot I think I would be more willing to use that.
Yeah, and I mean, also take a couple other things into consideration. What did your opponent and yourself do on Thursday night? If you're down by a lot, then maybe you need to go with Marquise Brown for the high ceiling play, as well as does your league offer any incentives for going over 100 yards? I know in our league it's like an extra 5 points or something like that. So I would probably be leaning Marquise Brown in that situation as well. But thank you for your question, Blue Crew. Hopefully you enjoyed today's stream. Probably we got 2 more questions, and then I will go over just a couple of quick news and notes that have kind of come out. And then we're going to wrap this thing up. We are going a little long, but we did want to make sure we get everyone's questions in. Another one coming in here, PPR Flex, pick one, Bell, Crowder, Shepard, or Miller. I think real quick, I'm going with Jameson Crowder. I think he's going to get more receptions than Le'Veon Bell will. Sterling Shepard's a good play, but, I mean, going up against that really tough defense, I think I'm staying away. Scotty Miller could be great, but I have to wait too long to make a decision. And Le'Veon Bell, I mean, a lot of things that I'm hearing, if they want Frank Gore to run the football and Le'Veon Bell to line up as a wide receiver, not all the time, but sometimes, I think that's going to cap Bell's upside. So I think in this situation, I go Crowder. What are you doing, Pride?
I think I would rather go Bell. I think just because they'll also get some rushing work, and I think passing work will also come. I know Jamison Crowder, he's kind of a safe choice. He's not very inspiring, but I guess you can get a decent baseline from him. But I think I would rather go Bell as my flex because since he'll get the duality of running and catching the ball.
All right, let's move on to our last one we have in the docket here. Coming in, Shark or Beckham? PPR, Pride. Shark or Beckham? Both are projected to be playing from behind.
Yeah, I'm still not the biggest fan of Odell Beckham in Cleveland. I think I might go with DJ Chark because whereas I think the Browns might get down a lot in the second half and have to be throwing the ball a lot to catch up then, I feel like the Jaguars will be down a lot in the first quarter and will start just chucking the ball up to DJ Chark a lot. And so I think I'd have to go with DJ Chark in this situation.
I'm going to go with the wide receiver that doesn't like to get pooped on. So I'm going to be going with DJ Chark here. I don't know how true that is, but yeah, I think I go DJ Chark here. I think they're going to be, I mean, both of these teams, in my opinion, are going to be down in the second half. They're going to have to be throwing the football a lot more. And yes, Odell Beckham can make massive plays, but so can DJ Chark. DJ Chark proved it last season. D.D. Westbrook is out this game, so I just believe even more in DJ Chark. And I think DJ Chark is going to come away with a touchdown in this game. I really do like him. We got another question that just came in, coming in here from Robert. Robert, thank you for your question. Hopefully you are enjoying the stream. Full PPR flex, Chris Thompson, Crowder, or Scotty Miller. A lot of Scotty Miller questions today, Pride. A lot of people have picked up Scotty Miller. I have a feeling as though if he has a game, he's definitely going to be a hot waiver wire ad. Chris Thompson, Crowder, or Miller, PPR and the flex. Oh man, this is a good one. I have been off Scotty Miller this entire stream, so I'm gonna stay there on this one. I just recommended Jamison Crowder. I did say I like Chris Thompson, and he is healthy going into this week. They are gonna have to be coming from behind, so Chris Thompson could be a good play. Jamison Crowder also expected to get a lot of work, but in this scenario, I think I go Chris Thompson because this Buffalo defense could lock down Jamison Crowder. And let's be honest, Sam Darnold or Gardner Minshew, I'm going to take Gardner Minshew in that one. I know I just went Jamison Crowder earlier, but out of those options, I would go Crowder there. Out of these options, I would go Chris Thompson. I think he's going to be involved in the receiving game. He has to be. This team's going to be playing from behind. I expect him to get some carries as well. Gruden absolutely loves this guy. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go with Chris Thompson here. Pride?
Yeah, I'd have to agree there. I mean, that Jay Gruden connection is probably has the knowledge of the offense, and I think he's, like you said, playing from behind. They're going to have to throw the ball, and he's probably going to be out on the field a lot.
All right, guys, couple more news and notes that I want to get through before we close the stream out. Talking about the 49ers, Tevin Coleman could sit if the air level remains unsafe. So if this is somebody you're looking to play, get him out of your lineup now and start looking for that backup plan. Maybe you play Boston Scott over someone like Tevin Coleman if you're already in that situation. Raheem Mostert should be a good play. Pete Carroll hints at a hot hand for Carson and Hyde. That's never good to hear. Will Dissly with that Achilles is 100% and all systems go. So this is somebody I'm not probably playing this week, but could probably be playing in the weeks to come. Big time money came through. Dalvin Cook got a 5-year extension. Alvin Kamara got a 5-year extension. Cooper Kupp got a 3-year extension. Great job for all those guys. Cortland Sutton is going to be a game time decision Monday. He was not practicing on Saturday. And again, Mike Williams, this has been so interesting. First going from he's not going to play to he's going to play to he's probably going on IR to he will in fact play today. Pride, what are the Chargers doing? But also, is it even worth playing Mike Evans? I'm not playing, or not Mike Evans, Mike Williams. I'm not playing him.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing, and I'm with you. I'm not going to play Mike Williams. I mean, he was a late round selection at the best, so you'll have plenty of wide receivers to play instead of him. He's probably on your bench anyway if he's even on your team. So, yeah, don't play him.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing, but
Jarvis Landry will play today. His role will be limited, so probably shouldn't play him as well. Got some breaking news coming in. Kendall Fuller is inactive against Philadelphia, so maybe that means he will. Yeah, I mean, maybe that means Terry McLaurin will be a better play for you today. We do have a couple more questions in. Okay, so we've got one more question coming in, and then we're going to end the stream on this question. Coming in from Flip. Hopefully you enjoyed the stream. Thank you for stopping by. Who should I sit out this week? Marvin Jones, Tyler Lockett, John Brown, Cortland Sutton, or Paris Campbell? It looks like he put another comment in there. 2. You got to pick 2 guys to sit out this week. For me, I think that's pretty easy. John Brown and Paris Campbell. And I'm going to play the other 3. I'm playing Jones. I'm playing Lockett. Man, you know what? That Cortland Sutton all of a sudden really has me questioning life. Man, especially with not practicing on Saturday. I don't think John Brown's the play there because I think they're going to be winning by a lot, and I think it's going to be the Stephon Diggs show. I go with Paris Campbell. I think Paris Campbell can be the number 2 for this team. He could be involved early and often, and then maybe not so much in the second half. But Marvin Jones, Tyler Lockett for sure, and then I go Paris Campbell. Pride, your thoughts?
I think I would sit out Cortland Sutton, Paris Campbell. Like you said with Cortland Sutton, he's got the Monday night game. So, like, if you do play him and, all the games on Sunday going and you're just going into Monday night with Cortland Sutton being the only guy left on your roster and he doesn't play, that's just a fat 0 in your column. So, with the injury right now, I would sit him out just to be safe. And I also set out Paris Campbell because I just like John Brown's upside more in that Bills offense. I think the Jets, even though they don't have too many good defensive secondary players, I mean, they've got some pretty decent safeties in Marcus May and Bradley McDougald. But if they start to key in on Stephon Diggs, I would be looking for John Brown to catch a lot of deep balls. And yeah, that's why I would go with him. Whereas Paris Campbell, he was hurt last year, and so I just don't know how he's going to play in this offense.
All right, I know I said that was the last one, but we did get one more in, and I do want to answer it. I'm sorry. This is the last question. We're going to get out of here on this one. Odell or Hilton PPR? Good question. Good question. Glad we get it ended on this one. T.Y. Hilton is going to be a decent play for you, but also this team, like we said, we expect them to be up by a whole lot. So when it comes to Hilton and Odell Beckham Jr., I'm going to take the guy who's going to be coming from behind, and I'm going to be going with Odell Beckham Jr. here. I think he's going to have more catches than T.Y. Hilton. And, yeah, I'm going Odell here. I think Odell's the play. Right?
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you there. Odell is probably going to be the play, especially if Jarvis Landry is dealing with something. And, yeah, I think I'm always concerned with the Colts' deep ball capabilities of Phil Rivers at quarterback, but I think especially if they get up early, then, they just won't need to use Hilton that much, whereas Odell will probably be on the field throughout the entire game.
Yeah, well, that is going to end this stream. Week 1 of the 2020 fantasy football season is here. I had fun today, Pride. Did you have fun today?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I can't wait for the games to start.
Yeah, we got the games kicking off. Under an hour now. Looks like we're under 50 minutes now. So make sure you do follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the time, SpeedPod. If any other updates come out for In and Out, we'll be putting them up on Twitter for sure. So definitely go check it out. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this stream. We want to be doing this. Let us know. Tweet at us. Do those kinds of things. Let us know, and we will definitely be doing some more. Of course, just as we're about to end, Pride, we just got a ton of questions come in. I feel obligated. I'm sorry. I feel obligated to go through these. We'll go through them super quick. Rapid fire. We do got to get out of here. Rapid fire. Here we go. Coming in from Verified Moo. That's a fun name. That's fun. Montgomery or Ingram at the running back 2, full PPR. I'm going Mark Ingram here. I think he's going to get more work than David Montgomery, and he's going to catch more passes.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. Ravens will probably take the lead in this game, and they'll just have Ingram run a lot near the end to boost up his value.
Our next question coming in from Taylor. Thank you, Taylor, for stopping by. Full PPR, Akers or Rager? I'm going with Akers here. I think he's going to be more involved than Jalen Rager. Pride?
Yeah, Rager, I'm still concerned about his injuries. Not sure how much he'll be used. Deshaun Jackson looks like he's going to be the guy, so Akers is probably the guy to go with out of him and Rager.
And one more question coming in from Brad. Brad, thanks for your question. Hopefully you enjoyed the stream. Boston Scott or Calvin Ridley from a flex because Miles Sanders is out. Calvin Ridley. I'm going Calvin Ridley, especially with Julio potentially limited with that hamstring injury. I think Calvin Ridley is going to have a Chris Godwin-esque season this year. I go with Calvin Ridley. Pride, your thoughts?
Yeah, we've said a lot. We've seen a lot about it. I think that Boston Scott and Corey Clement can just eat into each other. And like Colin said earlier, with the Eagles having some linemen out, it's just going to be difficult for them to do anything. So Calvin Ridley's the easy guy to go with.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone, for stopping by. Thank you for typing into the stream. Like I said, let us know if you enjoy this. We want to do this some more, but we're only going to do it if we know you guys want to see this. So do make sure you're hitting that like button, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to get to 10 likes on this video and this live stream. That'd be absolutely amazing. Thank you guys so much for your support. As always, make sure you follow us on Twitter at TimesKewPod. Check us out on the web, timeskew.com. That's where we've got our articles going up for all the different teams across the NFL and fantasy football. And check out our podcast. Maybe you're just joining us for the first time. Check out our podcast. It's called Timeskew Fantasy Football. This is what we do. We talk fantasy football. You can find it here on YouTube. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else that you listen to podcasts. But for Pride, I'm Q. Thank you guys so much for tapping in. We're going to see you next time. See you.